Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we are going to move on with our little trundle through the passive voice by looking at the future and the imperfect passive of the main conjugations. Now last time we learnt a little trick for converting the active endings ost, mus, tis, unt into passive endings, which were oristur, mur, mini, untur. Okay, and that worked pretty well. We saw how we could convert the present tense of ammo into the present passive of ammo. Now, a very, very similar thing happens when we look at the future tense. So, for ammo and moneo, you will remember the endings are bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. And I hope you won't be surprised to hear that these convert to bo, beris, bitur, bimur, bimini, buntur. Okay, nice simple little kind of routine we're getting into here. Ost, mustis unt, oristur, murmini, untur. And that works, of course, if we're going bobis bit rather than just ost. Okay, so the future tense of ammo is amarbor, amarberis, amarbitur, amarbimur, amarbimini, amarbuntur. Okay, so we're going bor, beris, bitter, bimmer, bimmini, buntur. And if sometimes I stress it that way, that's because those are the endings I'm trying to get you to learn. And for the future of moneo, monebor, moneberis, monebitur, monebimur, monebimini, monebuntur. Okay. Now, Rego and audio, as you know, they tend to be pigs, but not too scary. We are going to convert the future tense endings, so we'll start with Rego, am, ace, et, amus, atis, ent. We're going to convert those, and they're going to become are, eris, atur, amur, amini, entur. So the future tense passive of Rego, regar, regaris, regatur, regamer, regamini, regentur. And for audio, that's going to go, instead of audiam, audies, audiet, audiamus, audiatis, audient, which is the active version, in the passive it goes audiar, audieris, audiatur, audiamur, audiamini, audientur. And capio, which is a bit of a copycat, is going to go capiar, capieris, capiatur, capiamur, capiamini, capientur. Okay, so the basic pattern that we learnt in our first lesson on the passive of converting O or M, st, mustis unt, to oristur, mur, mini, untur, is working quite nicely in the future as well. And buoyed by the confidence that this gives us, we're going to now look at the imperfect passive and see that these too behave in a nice, predictable way. Bambars bat, barmus bartis bant, becomes barbaris barter, barmer, barmini, buntur. Okay, very, very predictable once you've got the hang of this. So ammo in the imperfect passive is going amarbar, amarbaris, amarbatur, amarbarmur, amarbarmini, amarbuntur. Moneo, monebar, monebaris, monebata, monebarmer, monebarmini, monebantur. Rego, regebar, regebaris, regebata, regebarmer, regebarmini, regebantur. Audios, too easy this, audiebar, audiebaris, audiebata, audiebarmer, audiebarmini, audiebantur. And capio, capiebar, capiebaris, capiebata, capiebarmer, capiebarmini, capiebantur. So before we do some practice with those, I now need to teach you a little rule which is a very important rule, and it concerns agents and instruments. Now, we have learned that the subject of a passive verb is the person or the thing having the verb done to him or her, or it. Okay. Now, we've also learnt that it is likely that that action is being performed by someone or something. Okay, so if you said the prince is loved by the princess, the subject is the prince, the verb is loved, and then we want to know, well, the prince is loved by whom, and we get something in the ablative. Okay, so far so good. However, there is a rule here about that ablative, and the rule is very simple. If the person or thing doing the action of the verb is a person or an animal, then that person or animal is referred to as an agent, and they go in the ablative, as you'd expect, but they go in the ablative with a preposition, typically are or ab, meaning by. Okay. But if the person or the thing doing the action is in fact a thing and not a person, then it goes in the ablative but without a preposition. Okay, so for example, if we were to say he is loved by the girl, our verb he is loved would be amatur, and by the girl is a person or an animal, so she goes in the ablative after the preposition are or ab. Okay, so a puella amatur means he or she is loved by the girl. But if you had a sentence such as he was killed by the sword, or he was killed with a sword, our verb would be interficiebatur. Okay, there's an imperfect passive, he was killed. Interficiebatur. And then with a sword or by a sword, now a sword is a thing, not a person. So it is an instrument rather than an agent, and it just goes in the ablative without a preposition. So that would be gladio. So gladio interficiebatur would mean he or she was killed by a sword. Okay, so just to recap, if the person doing the action of a passive verb is a person or a thing, it is an agent and it must have a preposition with it. And if it is a thing, it is an instrument and it must not have a preposition with it. Okay? Nice little rule about agents and instruments. And we have a silly little joke that you could be killed by an agent with an instrument. You know, if you get biffed over the head with a violin by a secret agent, well, yeah. But you get the basic point. Okay, so let's just do a couple of sentences to practice that and check we've got this nailed. Both our use of future and imperfect passive endings, and also that rule about agents and instruments. So we've got some practice in the book. We are here on page 35 of book 2, and if we have a little look at exercise 4.6, just do a couple. So the first one, they will be accused by the judge. Okay, now subject is they, verb is will be accused. It'll go at the end, but let's do it now, get it out of the way. Accuso is the Latin for I accuse, it goes like ammo. So, they will be accused will be accusabuntur. Okay, third person plural, future passive of accuso. Accusabuntur, and then by the judge. Well, the judge is a person, so he is an agent, so he does require a preposition, so it'll be ab judice. Just a little thing about when we use are and when we use ab, that preposition meaning by. The rule is pretty simple. You use are unless it's followed by a vowel or an H. So, judice, the letter I is a vowel, and we therefore need ab judice. Okay, if we do another one, number 4, the fortunate slaves will not be killed by the sword. Okay, rather a silly sentence. The fortunate slaves, they're the subject. So, servi, that's nominative plural. Fortunate, you may remember felix is the Latin for fortunate, third declension adjective. So, servi felices, the fortunate slaves, will not be killed. Okay, we'll leave it to the end this time because it should come last. Now, by the sword. A sword is an instrument, not an agent. It's a thing, not a person. So we need the ablative of the word for a sword, and that will be gladio. So, servi felices gladio non interficientur. They will not be killed. That's the future passive of interficio. Okay, so that's a nice quick lesson on the future and the imperfect. I have said before, once you sort of get into the groove with this stuff, each new little bit I teach you should just sort of add to your armoury of stuff relatively easily, because the patterns that we learn are kind of pretty clearly identifiable and, in a sense, predictable. You just need to have a little check to see which vowel we're using and so on. But, you know, ost, mustis sunt, oristur, murminiuntur, that kind of pattern translated into, for example, bam, bar, spat, barmas, bartis, bant, becoming bar, baris, barter, barma, barmani, bunter. You know, it's kind of, it's not surprising when you see it. That's what I hope you are finding here. If you're not, drop me a comment in the box below and say, look, you fool, you're talking gibberish. But I hope you're getting the hang of this stuff. I think it's great, but, you know, let me know what you think. If you want a little bit of practice on this, there's an exercise 4.7 in the book on page 35. Little story about Titus Manlius. It's got some nice little passives, some imperfect passives, some present passives, some future, but maybe not passive. Don't get, you know, tricked. All these things don't always crop up in the next passage you see. Next time we're going to move on to look at the 5th and final declension of Latin nouns. So don't let anyone tell you you're not making good progress here. Okay, so see you back here on this channel for more Latin, and keep up the good work.